Hello everyone, my name is JV Robles and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at NetCom Learning. As a market leader in providing managed learning services, we are happy to host today's executive webinar on the art of professional apology. Presenting today's topic is Vincent Suppa. Vincent teaches graduate business courses at New York University, is an efficiency hacker, and a certified executive Six Sigma Black Belt. He specializes in working with pre-IPO startups, helping them to position themselves for public offering, acquisition, or merger. Vincent worked in Asia as an expat, as well as in the U.S. and European telecommunication sector. Self-described as a part of Generation Flux, he is the founding president of HR Avant-Garde. Please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic. We do offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards your specific requirements. If you are interested in speaking further with a subject matter expert, you can feel free to make an appointment with one of our learning consultants on our website, netcomlearning.com. Now I will just give you a quick overview of the logistics before we get started. To start with, you have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. Simply hit the escape key and find the zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer, which is right over here. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters as well. A PDF of today's slides will be going out in the chat box in just a few moments. Please feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenter here in the questions pane, and we will address them at the end of the session. Today's session is also being recorded, so you will get free access to this recording in the next 24 hours via email. Now I will just take a moment to show you where you could find this recording. If you log on to our website, netcomlearning.com, on your right-hand side, you'll see the free webinars tab. You could click on here. Here you could see the list of upcoming live webinars and events. You could sign up for as many as you want. And if you scroll down, you could see the recently completed webinars list. Just an FYI as well, if you want to discuss a specific topic, product, or course with one of our consultants, you could call our general line up here. Now, without further ado, I will pass it on to Vincent to present today's topic.
Thank you, JV. I'm very happy to be here. So the least you need to know about the art of the professional apology in 18 minutes. Let's begin. Now, the apology webinar is a subset of an upcoming lecture on the art of office politics. I have seen many intelligent, articulate, talented people have their career railroaded because they were not able to manage the office politics, which unfortunately is a very big part of the workplace, especially as you ascend towards top levels in the organization. Now, I like to give the whole lecture in just one slide. Let's talk about the difference between the personal apology and the professional apology. They are two different things. In the personal apology, you're getting at the core issue. It's detailed honesty, it's true understanding, and it probably takes a lot of time, because you're really focused on getting at the root cause. Now, the professional apology is different. For the professional apology, it's about changing the dynamics, managing the office politics, and taking a holistic approach about managing the relationships of the people that you have to work with. Now, the professional apology is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it is a sign of strength, and it increases your ability at managing relationships at the office. Now, as seductive as it may seem, your company is not your family, despite what a CEO may or may not say. Because I had a CEO once tell me that our company is like a family. And I said, well, how many children do you have? And this executive had 4 children, and I said, how many have you let go? And of course the answer is none. And we have parents that parent children that have problems, extraordinary problems, and of course they still never let them go, as they should not. So this is why, as it may seem seductive, your work is not your family, and that's why the professional apology is a little bit different from the personal apology, the latter being the type of apology that you have to go into depth. Now, we said that as seductive as it seems, your company is not your family. Well, you know what it's more like? It's more like a team. It's more like a team, because with a team, everyone works together towards a common goal. Yes, people care for each other, care about each other in a professional sense, but we do have members on professional sports teams being traded to other teams and even being let go. So again, the analogy is, to put it in its proper context, is that your job, your company is not your family, it's more like a team. And that's why the professional apology is different from the personal apology. Now, if I was to tell you the entire webinar in just a tweet, here's what I would tweet. We apologize to change the dynamics, falls on bad footing. Again, we apologize to change the dynamics, not because we think we're wrong. Now, there may be many times where you do in fact think that you were wrong and you want to apologize because you feel that you were in the wrong. But at the heart of the professional apology, we're not apologizing because necessarily we think we did wrong, but we're doing it to change the dynamics in the relationship. Now let's talk about the definition of humility. Many people feel that humility is about being self-deprecating, but I don't agree. True humility is the art by which other people feel good and better about themselves simply by being in your presence, because you bring out the best in them. Again, humility is about you making other people feel better about themselves simply by the interaction that they had with you. So the professional apology is a wonderful way to recalibrate that when you fall on bad footing. And frankly, if you want to be unscathed in life, don't get out of bed. So as we work in the workplace, of course there are going to be times where faux pas will be committed. It's just part of life and certainly part of the workplace. Now, the art of the professional apology, if done right, an apology could enhance your reputation and your relationship. Done wrong, it could make the original mistake even worse. And to forego the professional apology in light of a faux pas, well, that could leave festering wounds open. And festering wounds tend to get worse, not better. Now, the misconception of weakness with the professional apology is about people thinking, well, only weak people apologize. But I'm here to tell you that offering an apology is not a sign of weakness. It's a reputation enhancer that actually comes from strength. And strength, of course, could only come from confidence. So if you feel a faux pas has been committed at the workplace, if you feel that you had some role in this faux pas, even if you feel that you did not do anything wrong, don't miss the opportunity to reap the good that the professional apology could bring. Now, the professional apology is about being specific and being accurate. We never want to use words that are provocative. Now, for the person who feels that they have been wronged, what they really want more than anything is to be understood. So if you could be specific and accurate about what you are apologizing about, well, you have just increased your empathy curve with the other person. And I feel that you are already halfway there towards the professional apology. Now, don't apologize for the wrong thing. As human beings, we tend to apologize for the parts that we find the most forgivable. But without a clear relationship between the act and what we're apologizing for, we could wind up exasperating the problem. Don't think in terms of expressions of regret, but actually communicate the regret. Now remember, expression is one-sided, but communication is that interaction between two people. Now let's look at the professional apology's 3 elements. If you include all of these 3 elements, you have begun mastering the art of the professional apology, which again is a game changer in the art of office politics. The three elements of the professional apology: acknowledgement, responsibility, and regret. Acknowledge what you perceive that you did to offend the other person, take responsibility for it, and make a genuine expression of regret. When you do something like this, you take the wind out of the sails of the other person who is upset at you. So by having these three elements, you've de-escalated the conflict. Now, you can't control if your apology is accepted or not, but the only thing you can control is the quality of your apology. And that's what we're going to discuss, the quality of the professional apology. Rule number 1, don't apologize to feel better. Apologize to move on. Remember, this is not the personal apology. This is the professional apology. Your company is not your family. It is your team. Now, a tactful apology is the swiftest way to clear the negative air and push forward. And a great apology can be a game changer. You don't even have to be 10% sorry because, again, we apologize to change the dynamics and to change the conversation. Because, again, we have to work with these people. Rule number 2, don't let pride get in the way. Ego is the main reason why it's difficult for people to apologize. So remember, accepting responsibility is viewed as a sign of leadership. Rule number 3, for your professional apology, use the richest medium available. The written word could never match the spoken word. So the richest medium would be face-to-face. Because remember, email is disastrous for conveying emotional context. One way that email would be appropriate would be to use it to say, I messed up and I would like to meet you to discuss in person. Now, if a face-to-face is not feasible because perhaps you live in different cities, well, a phone would be a much richer medium than email, although not as rich as a face-to-face. So consider the phone a distant second choice for your professional apology. Now, rule number 4, actually apologize in the active voice. So at the risk of sounding obvious, actually apologize. Don't qualify that you're about to apologize, but never actually apologize. In fact, don't even qualify your apology. Just jump in and apologize. Here are some apologies that I've heard that I consider false apologies and make the situation even worse. We've all heard, I'm sorry if what I did made you feel bad. Well, of course it made the other person feel bad. Otherwise, you would not have felt the need to apologize, but you're not apologizing for what you did. When you say, I'm sorry if what I did made you feel bad, you're really putting the blame on the other person for feeling bad for what you did. So if that's actually how you do feel, then don't apologize at all, because a 50% apology does make the situation worse. Now, most people apologize merely as an explanation of their behavior. Just to use a silly extreme example, the apology that sounds something like, gee, I'm sorry that I called you out in front of your boss, but your idea was so dumb. Well, you're really justifying your behavior. And again, if that's how you feel, and if you want to dig in, then you're better off not falsely apologizing. You're better off not saying anything. Apologies fail if they're merely perceived as you being defensive because you've made the apology all about justifying your behavior. So when you apologize, acknowledge not only the act on what you did, but the repercussions. An example might be, I'm very sorry that I called you out at the meeting in front of your boss. I should not have done that. I made you lose face. And I get that the repercussions are that I made you look bad in front of your boss. Again, a professional apology like that, you simply de-escalate, because when you're being honest, you're acknowledging what you did, you're acknowledging the repercussions, you're showing a high empathy curve. The other person gets that you get what you did, and now you could work on mending the relationship, because the offended seeks empathy more than anything else. Rule number 5, tell the whole truth. There is a difference between saying the least you need to say not to get into trouble and being completely honest. What is worse than not apologizing is an incomplete apology that leaves out the details, because now you've confirmed with the other person that you simply do not get it. Telling a partial story deflates your whole empathy curve. So again, acknowledge the entire act. And by the way, done concisely, this does not have to go more than 45 seconds, 60 seconds. Rule number 6, don't necessarily expect instant forgiveness, and don't be rattled by a lackluster response. Now remember, you can't control how the offended person will respond. You can only control how you constructed the apology. And if you follow the steps we previously discussed, you have crafted a high-quality apology. And if the person does not forgive you on the spot, you could say something to the effect, I see why you're still angry, and I understand. Because the professional apology is not about cashing in on your own dignity, so the person only gets one, meaning you don't need nor should you apologize 2 times, 3 times. A well-crafted professional apology is done one time. If the person doesn't accept it, now it's on them whether or not to hold a grudge or not. It's not on you anymore because you just shifted the distribution of power back into your favor by acknowledging the entire faux pas. Again, I can see why you're still angry, and I understand. But I will tell you that more often than not, most things are forgivable, and if you follow the previous steps, most of the time you will get forgiveness because, frankly, in this day of age, people are rattled by people telling the complete truth. Most people in the workplace tell the least amount they need to say not to get into trouble. So it's such a game changer, someone being so confident that they're just going to tell the entire truth, including the parts where they messed up. Usually you will get that forgiveness. But if you don't, move on. Because what happens is if you don't get instant forgiveness, or even if you do, rule number 7 is just get back to work. Returning to the job evokes normalcy. Now it's on them to forgive or hold a grudge. So again, everyone just gets one apology, not 2, not 3. We're not talking about cashing in on our own dignity, and now you just get back to work. Rule number 8 is about time. Time is the secret ingredient. Be patient. With enough time, most things, certainly not all things, but most faux pas under the bell curve, most things are forgivable. And even if the world may feel like it's ending, after a while, people do move on. Even if you don't get that verbal confirmation that your apology has been accepted, when you see that person in the hallway, I believe that it's going to be that much less awkward because you've certainly done your best to repair the relationship. And again, most anguish is not important enough to last. So after a certain amount of time, people do move on. Now again, a quick review, because I'm very big on operationalizing my talks. You could immediately put it to use. We apologize to move on, not feel better. Rule number 2, don't let pride get in the way. Rule number 3, use the richest medium available. Face-to-face is preferable. If you live in different cities, a phone call. Rule number 4, apologize in the active voice. Do not say something to the effect, I'm sorry for what I said made you look bad in front of your boss. No, the active voice. I said something that made you look bad in front of your boss at the meeting. I apologize. Rule number 5, tell the whole truth. We tend to only ask forgiveness for the parts of the faux pas that we find the most forgivable. Don't do that. Acknowledge the whole faux pas. Rule number 6, don't necessarily expect instant forgiveness, and don't apologize for a second or third time. Everyone gets one. You have already shifted the powers of the distribution of power back to you because you did something wrong. You lose power. You offered a sincere, complete apology. You get your power back. Now it's on them whether or not to hold a grudge. Rule number 7, get back to work because normalcy will begin to take root. And remember that time is the secret ingredient because after a while, most faux pas under the bell curve are forgivable. And even less, and the least you need to know, again, quick review of the entire webinar. We apologize to change the dynamics of our professional relationship, and our apologies, 3 elements. You want to acknowledge what you did, take responsibility, and express regret. Our non sequitur of the day, it is better to be at the bottom rung of the ladder you love than on the top of the ladder you do not. This is Vincent Suppa signing off saying, I'm sorry, and I'm going to toss it back to JV, and I hope that you join me for November 24th's webinar on leading from the middle, the non-positional nature of power. Tossing it back to you, JV.
Thank you so much, Vincent. That was a wonderful and informative presentation. So we do have a few questions here that we can address. Now, one question is, what do you suggest for someone who owes you an apology but doesn't give it?
Oh, if you're being owed the apology, it's on the other side of the equation. Well, I would say talk about the elephant in the room. I would ask to meet with that person. What's very important is that you speak with diplomacy, you speak with respect, even if you feel that you've been wronged, and you probably have been wronged. You don't want to give up your power by raising your voice, losing your cool, because then it becomes about you and your anger. So if you feel that you owed an apology and you did not get it, I feel it's entirely appropriate to ask to meet the person. You don't want the person to feel ambushed. And open and honestly talk about why you think that you're offended. Give the person respect. Speak with diplomacy so the issue remains focused on what the other person did wrong to you and not about your anger because you lost your cool. So in conclusion, talk about the elephant in the room and do it in such a way that you retain your own dignity when doing so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another question is, what if an altercation happened a long time ago and I still have not apologized yet? Should I bring it up and apologize, or should I just leave it alone and ignore it?
Oh, that's a very good question. It brings me to a point that if there is a faux pas, the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes to apologize. And it tends to be a little bit more uphill. So I do believe if there is a faux pas, you want to do it quicker than later. But let's say you just heard this talk and you did something many, many months ago. I still think that you should apologize because they say that when steel breaks and then you have to weld it, the strongest part of that steel was the broken part that you welded. And I think that the professional apology can be a game changer. And I've seen examples where you had an average relationship with someone, there was a faux pas, the person apologized, and now that relationship is even stronger than it was before the faux pas. Because when you apologize, you make yourself vulnerable. It's a form of intimacy, and that would make the relationship even stronger. So if a lot of time went by, bite the bullet and acknowledge this is something that I should have apologized many months ago. Obviously, I'm talking to you about it now because it's bothered me all this time, and please take that as a sign that I must care about our professional relationship, that I'm bringing it up after all this time, and then just continue with the steps that we discussed. Thank you.
Thanks, Vincent. That was very great advice. Another question here is, do you recommend a one-on-one apology after the event or a public apology in front of the group at the time of the event?
Oh, well, I always tell proteges and clients, always go with your gut feel because there's so many other data points that are unique to every situation. But all things being equal, I think one-on-one. The public apology is more of an open act where it almost reminds me of the tar and feathering. And I think under most conditions, one-on-one is better. I don't think there's a need to make it publicly. Now, there might be situations where that might be appropriate, right? Because again, there's so many data points to situations and faux pas that are unique. But all things being equal, I'm not talking about people feeling the need to cash in on their own dignity. Faux pas are a part of the work life. They're a part of life. And I think the one-on-one apology is more than sufficient. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Vincent. One more question here. I work in an environment with individuals with different disabilities. In your experience, what are some of the better ways to facilitate when you are a mediator in a conversation?
Okay, so you're a mediator in a conversation and it has to do with a person who just happens to have a disability, well, I guess the person can give a redirect. I would say the professional apology would be the same. The fact that a person may or may not have a disability really shouldn't alter you treating them any differently. If you're talking about the disability because we're talking about an ADA HR issue, then of course there are legal guidelines to that, and you want to consult that. At a very high level, though, I think that you talk honestly, you talk with respect, you talk about diplomacy, and I'm a big fan, but for the grace of God, and if someone has a disability, I certainly want to do whatever I can to help that person, and as the law requires, make all reasonable accommodations so that person could thrive just like every other member of the workplace team. Not family, but team. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Vincent, I do have a question. In addition to teaching business courses at NYU, I understand you also do consulting work. Can you give us an example of another soft skill course you've delivered to a corporate client and how you were able to help them solve their business need or problem?
Oh, sure. One recent one was giving clients a quick time to market on how to do competitive analysis. I think a lot of long and drawn out competitive analysis, by the time you have what you need, it could become obsolete. So I offer very quick time to market tools on how to take open source information for a public company would be financial documents, and how to reverse engineer those financial documents to decipher the strategy of your competitors. I've also did a recent client engagement where I talked about goal setting and how we could make sure that everyone's goals were really cascading down from the objective of the CEO. And then all the direct reports of the CEO were focused on things cascading down from the CEO, and then their direct reports were working on things that were supporting the executive level. And that was a way that we took the typical performance management system that, frankly, most people do in December. They look at the last one they did for their subordinate, they cut and paste, they change a few things just to check off the box, and we turn the typical performance management tool and we turn it into a revenue driver by making sure that people are only focused on the things that really enhance the company's net income. And I can go on. I give dozens and dozens, often customizing, but those are two that I've conducted most recently.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Vincent. That was a wonderful presentation, and thank you for addressing all of our questions today. If anybody else have or come up with any additional questions, please feel free to send them to webinar@netcomlearning.com at any time, and we could address those further. We hope that you found today's webinar informative, and we definitely look forward to seeing you back here again soon. And thank you so much again, Vincent. That was
Thank you,
wonderful.
JP. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone. Take care.